and you get one. I want to start a new series this morning. We're talking on Love's Road to Redemption. We're going to be in the Book of Ruth. We'll also include New Testament verses throughout this, but this entire study, I have 4 messages. Right now, the Lord's laid on my heart. The Book of Ruth is one of the most unique books of the Old Testament. And I love reading. I love reading the old classics, and I have several of those. And I've read Honey in the Rock, like Uncle Bud Robinson, and A.M. Hills, and just a lot of writers of the past. I love Andrew Murray, who's my favorite writer about prayer. He was back there for many years ago. And I like Frank Peretti and Max Lucado, and Chuck Swindoll, and Billy Graham, and Jonathan Kahn, and the list goes on and on and on. I'm reading a book right now that's called Discipleship. And it's one of the most exciting as well as challenging books. Really, that I've read in a long, long time. But I ran across an interesting story from Chuck Swindoll. And it goes like this. He said, several decades ago, Atlantic codfish were transported from the coast to the middle of the U.S. The shippers had problems at first. Their early freezing methods left the fish flavorless after they thawed. So next, they tried shipping fish alive in tanks. But the fish got to their destination soft and mushy because of the lack of exercise in the tanks. Then someone had a brilliant idea. They would send the cod in tanks along with their natural enemy, the catfish. And from the time the catfish left the coast, they got chased around in the tank by the catfish. When they arrived at the market, they were as fresh as when they were caught. No loss of flavor or texture. So, moral of the story, according to Chuck Swindoll, he says, each of us is in a tank of inescapable circumstances. Those circumstances can be painful enough. But they're also God-appointed catfish, if you will, to bring enough tension to us to keep us alive, alert, prayerful, fresh, and growing. And it's all part of God's project to shape our character. So we'll be more like His Son. That's what Max Lucado had to say. It's insightful for us to study some of the character-shaping stories from the Old Testament, describing and seeing then how the New Testament reiterates them or even fleshes them out even in a greater manner. But, God rarely chooses great people to use in significant ways. In almost every circumstance, every instance, God takes ordinary people and He allows wounding and pain and challenge to come to them. And then when they trust Him, He gathers up all those details and all those events and He shapes them into a blessing. And He uses this. Ruth is one of those books. Who do you think the hero of the Book of Ruth is? It is named after her. So who do you think the hero is? Anybody got an idea? Some said Ruth. Anyone else? Nobody. Don't know the guy, but I've heard of him an awful lot, Harold. Well, the hero in the book it isn't Ruth. And Harold, it isn't nobody. So, if He redeemed her, then who's the hero of the book? God. God's the hero of the Book of Ruth, and He demonstrated Himself in His power in some startling ways that you just wouldn't think. And even though we get only limited direct descriptions of God, His fingerprints are all over these chapters of Ruth. Ruth's the love story of redemption. So God uses Boaz. You'll see in the story as we go along through this series, if the Lord wills. But you'll see how He'll show loyal love and the fact to redeem the lives of Naomi, mother-in-law. God illustrates His strong ability to redeem people. telling my wife that the main goal of my life, the main goal of my life is to see that no one's left behind in my family when they leave this world. Isn't that the goal you for your family? Not one missing. We used to sing the song, Will the Circle Be Unbroken? Isn't that the desire of every parent's heart? To see their children and their grandchildren and their great-grandchildren and to have that reunion. So as we look at Ruth, it's also a story of God's invisible hand. And the invisible hand of God is called by theologians, it's God's providence. God moves quietly behind the scenes, and then he suddenly shows his loyal love. The Hebrew word for providence is H-E-S-E-D. I'm going to try to say Hest, but I don't know. And God blesses people who could have given up on him and then uses them for his purposes in other people's lives. That phrase, God's providence, means God orchestrated everything to accomplish his purpose. We can understand that if we realize there's only really two ways that God acts in our world. One is through miracles. God's always doing things in this world. And my wife, Wednesday, we'll be starting we'll finish up the first year since she had her heart problems, and we'll be starting into the second year. And definitely, if I could have wrote the story, I would have wrote it different, sorry. But God's writing the story. And the pain and the agony and everything, we saw that invisible. We saw God's divine providence in ways that defied doctors, medical science, and even shocked us, even though that's what we were praying for. I had a fellow ask me one time, why is it that we are shocked when God does what we ask? He said, is it because we really don't believe he's going to do it? I said, no, I don't believe that's it. He said, well, what do you believe it is? I said, I believe it's because we're still human and we're not deity. And being human, we can want something with everything that's in us, but there's always that, oh, I hope it works. And then God lifts us up. He chooses the miraculous. Miracles happen when God takes the normal, everyday nature of things and suspends them. He sort of stops the flow and he injects a miracle. There's no natural explanation for those God-driven events. There's no relationship to what humans call normal. Someone is raised from the dead. How do you explain that? How do you explain Lazarus being in the tomb for 4 days, in the mummy's clothes that they wrapped him in, and Jesus said, come forward, and he gets up and walks out? No, those are miraculous. There's no human explanation. Do you know that right now, in our day, in our time, even today, Muslims, however you want to say it, by hundreds, are coming to faith in Jesus Christ in the Middle East and other spots around the country. They never advertise that in the newspaper. You never see that on, 21 or 15 or any other channel. You never see that. But God's a miracle working God. When miracles happen, God invades space and time and history, and he changes the normal flow of things. He sets back in motion again after that miracle in a way that we just say, wow, wow. So God uses miracles. The other way is we just kind of brief a little bit, God's divine providence. As I said, providence means that God takes, and I'm kind of explaining it a little further now, he takes the diverse elements of the normal, and he weaves them and turns them and incorporates them and orchestrates them. And have you ever heard there used to be a youth orchestra in Fort Wayne, and they may still have one, but this is back years, quite a few years ago. Jason used to work in Wednesday business way back there, and I met the guy that got the youth orchestra started. Got to know him, an older black man, And I went to one of their first practices. There's 27 young people. Some of them had never held an instrument before. And so they give them the instruction, with the reed, you've got, with any kind of woodwind, you've got to lick that reed, you've got to get it to where it's moist, and then you've got to put your lips just right. And the tuba, you don't try to do that to the tuba because you won't get any sound. You've got to take and hit your cheeks about the size of a chipmunk and try to get your lips just right. And this old black man was telling these kids all this, and I'm standing there amazed. He said, all right, I want everybody to see, to blow on your instrument or string your instrument, whatever the case, make a noise. Can I tell you, it was not a joyful noise. Oh, I mean, it just shudders went up and down my spine. And I looked at over those styles and I said, is that what you expected? He said, no, a little better than I was expecting. But then, in the fall, he got a hold of me. Shoe cobbler business on South Anthony. And I'd go in there and he'd put soles on my shoes and fix my shoes. And he was just a neat old guy. And he got a hold of me and said, I want you to come to, and so I was up there and I had worked it out where I was able to slip in for a while. And these 25 or 27 kids had never even held an instrument. Now it was no Philharmonic, but it was good. I said all that to say that sometimes the note that comes into our life doesn't sound harmonious. It doesn't feel harmonious. It doesn't seem like what we want to have happen. But he's orchestrating. He's working behind the scenes. There's something Ruth will kind of help us to get a hold of. If we understand that God is not only sovereign, by miraculous intervention, he intervenes in our life, but also this powerful orchestration. When we grasp that truth, we can become more confident and also definitely more contented in it. Contented people know that God orders everything, even the things that hurt, even the things that we don't understand. So Love's Road to Redemption is, there's 4 chapters, and we see that God is full of love, and it's a loyal love, and he's the one who makes promises like one you can read in Joel 2:25, where he says he will restore the years that the locusts have eaten. And Ruth reminds us too that God acts to protect and provide for the helpless, like Naomi, like the widows, and also for the orphans and the foreigners. So the same. Now we get to the verses of Scripture. We're going to read some verses and make a few comments, and I want you to get, this is what you call the foundation for the Book of Ruth. It's also a foundation for Love's Road to Redemption. So verse 1 of chapter 1. In the days when the judges ruled in Israel, a severe famine came upon the land, so a man from Bethlehem in Judah was born and went to live in the country of Moab, taking his wife and 2 sons with him. The man's name was Elimelech, and his wife was Naomi. Their 2 sons, Lala and Kilah, were Ephrathites from Bethlehem, the land of Judah. And when they reached Moab, they settled there. Just a moment here. We kind of need to look at the last part of the previous book, the book of Judges. I think just a couple moments. You see, the book of Judges, the judges in Israel's time was a bad time. Even when they had a good king, it was still a bad time. God didn't want Israel to have a king. God wanted to be their king, but they demanded a king. So, to their own dismay, God allowed it to happen. The last verse in the book of Kings kind of sets the scene that they needed some kind of redemption. It says, in those days there was no king in Israel. Everyone did what was right in their own eyes. Pages 21-25. Our American culture seems to be that, doesn't seem to kind of, that verse of Scripture almost kind of rings out in American culture. It seems like everybody wants to do that which seems right in their own eyes. People don't want laws, they don't want morality, they don't want any of this. And way back in the dark ages of Israel's time, A writer could have said it this way: nobody cared what God said about right and wrong. They just did whatever they wanted to do, not caring the outcome. That's the setting that Love's Road of Redemption from the Book of Ruth is setting. The context where the Book of Ruth starts, that's what the country was like. God hasn't changed. He still does the same things today as he did back in the days of Ruth. God's people weren't faithful to him then, and they suffered. And we're introduced then to a particular man from this time of Israel's sin, famine. And he decides to take matters into his own hands. Do you see anything wrong if we decide to take matters into our own hands in our life? I see a few nod their heads. Don't nod your heads and don't shake and look real steady ahead like you're at an auction and you don't have any money. You don't wait for somebody when you're at the auction and you have no money. I had a little bit of money and I bought 2 sackfuls of old, empty bread sacks for $1 at an auction. And the guy I was waiting at's here this morning. It was at Brother Michael's auction, and Cindy was there, and I waved at Cindy. I go, I hadn't seen her for a while. I waved at her. Sold to the preacher. I buy. You bought 2 sacks of old plastic bread sacks. So, when I ask you this question, keep those steely eyes so that you don't even... have any of us ever been guilty of taking our life in our own hands? Sure. Sure. God is faithful. Here's a side note. What you and I may go through, maybe even we're going through right now, it's never good to move away from God. Elimelech, who grew up knowing that God would provide for his children, who lived through the era of the judges, who had seen, and his family was started during the time of the judges. And what did he do? Well, he moved away. Famine in the land, he just moved away. He left. He didn't feel like it was the right thing to stay, so he moved away. You know what Elimelech's name means? His name means the Lord is King. Wow. Lord is King. My God is King. So here Elimelech moves his family away. Elimelech was from Bethlehem, and Bethlehem means house of bread. And he decides to take Naomi, and her name means pleasant, and move 100 miles away to a pagan country. And takes his children with him. Mahlon, his name means skinny, and Chilion, his name meant sickly. So he takes a skinny and a sickly kid and a pleasant wife, and he moves 100 miles from the heathen country. Then Elimelech died, and Naomi was left with 2 sons. The 2 sons married Moabite women. One married a woman named Orpah, and the other a woman named Ruth. But about 10 years later, both Mahlon and Chilion had died. This left Naomi alone without her 2 sons or her husband. There was no welfare. There was no help. She's in a foreign land, being a foreigner. So the decision that Elimelech made to move his family away, it didn't pan out so good. Verse 6. Then Naomi heard in Moab that the Lord had blessed his people in Judah by giving them good crops again. So Naomi and her daughters-in-law got ready to leave Moab to return to her homeland. With her 2 daughters-in-law, she set out from the place where she had been living, and they took the road that would lead them back to Judah. God had visited his people, just like they had seen happen again and again. Go on to verse 8. But on the way, Naomi said to her 2 daughters-in-law, "Go back to your mother's home, and may the Lord reward you for your kindness to your husbands and to me. May the Lord bless you with the security of another marriage." And then she kissed them goodbye, and they all broke down and wept. "No," they said, "we want to go with you to your people, And Naomi replied, why should you go with me? Can I still give birth to other sons who could grow up to be your husbands? No, my daughters, return to your parents' home, for I am too old to marry again. And even if it were possible, if I were to get married tonight and bear sons, then what? Would you wait for them to grow up and refuse to marry anyone else? No. Of course not, my daughters. Things would be far better. And again, verse 14, they went together. Orpah kissed her mother-in-law goodbye, but Ruth clung tightly to Naomi. Look, Naomi said to her, your sister-in-law has gone back to her people and her gods. You should do the same. But see, God's road to redemption, you see it right here. But Ruth replied, don't ask me to leave you and turn back. Wherever you go, your people will be my people, and your God will be my God. Whenever you die, I will die, and there I will be buried. May the Lord punish me severely if I allow anything but death to separate us. But Naomi saw that Ruth was determined to go with her. She said nothing more. Beginning of love's road we did. And I'm going to skip on a little bit. Going down to verse 19. So the two of them continued on their journey. When they came to Bethlehem, the entire town was excited by their arrival. Is it really Naomi? The women asked. Don't call me Naomi, she responded. Instead, call me Mara, for the Almighty has made life very bitter for me. I went away full, but the Lord has brought me home empty. Why call me Naomi when the Lord has caused me to suffer and the Almighty has set such tragedy upon me? Who is she blaming for moving away? Anybody? Yeah. Did God tell her to move away? He wasn't included in that decision. So here's the 3 points I want to share with you quickly. Circumstances don't define our lives. Back to Elimelech. In spite of his name declaring that the Lord is his king, and despite what he knew to be true about God, like so much of the rest of the generation, he made his own mind up. Proverbs says, trust in the Lord with all thine heart, and lean not unto thine own understanding. In all thy ways acknowledge him, and he shall direct thy paths. Proverbs 3, 5, and 6. Folks, if we put our faith in our own resources, we're going to fail again and again and again. And the more times we fail, we begin to get bitter. And we blame God for what's happening to us. When we make God small, every circumstance looks so much a giant. James says that we're to welcome trials. That's hard to do. Affliction drops in on all of us. Verse 28 of Romans 8, verse 28, the Amplified. This is the verse God gave me almost a year ago at about 4:45, 10:05 that evening. And we know with great confidence that God, who is deeply concerned about us, causes all things to work together as a plan for good for those who love God and those that are called according to his divine purpose. That's the Amplified. The very verse God gave me that day. I was at peace and had no idea. Thought for sure it was going to happen. The second thing, our choices matter deeply. Chapter 1 begins with a move to a foreign land. We've already heard that. Instead of staying where he was, toughing it out, he ran. When we run away from God, it's bad. Would you think after her husband died, she'd have moved back to Israel, wouldn't you? Isn't that the common logical thing? I don't have any people here. She had 2 daughters. They were maidens. They hadn't been married yet. But she was there for 10 years. She married husbands. During that time, her husbands, after 10 years, they died. See, there's no mention of the truth that the famine was God's disciplinary action to stop idolatry and sin among the children of Israel. Things happen in our lives. God doesn't go around with a club like some people think. I had to tell my youngest daughter, I said, it's okay to be mad at God when bad things happen. You say, you said that. I lived it a year ago. Now, I didn't turn my back on God, but I wasn't happy. I was mad. And it wasn't righteous anger. I was just mad. You know what I told the Lord? I told anybody else this study. I said, God, I have given you my life at 20 years of age. I served in evangelistic work for a little over 7 years, and now I've been pastoring for 35 years. And you do this to me? I don't understand it. Why would you do this to me? I had to get, that's the reason I prayed those from 2:30 in the afternoon till 10 till 5 to get to the place where I could just accept that God is still on the throne, that God, and no matter what He chose to do, He would help me. It took that long. You say, well, you're a preacher. Well, I tell you what, at 10 till 5, I wasn't mad at God anymore on that Tuesday afternoon. I wasn't mad at God. I told my daughters, they were in there in the chapel with me in Luther, and I said, God, God's given me a peace, girls, and they both fell on the floor weeping. She said, that means that she's gone. I said, I don't know what it means, but all I know is whatever God chooses, I'm okay with it. Whether I like it or not, I'm okay with it. I'm at peace with it. I told my son, and he just wept. And then about that time, Paul Smith, that drove all the way from Tennessee, he agreed to be with us, and he came and he knocked on the door and he said, hey, he said, the doctor wants to see you, or somebody from the doctor's team. And my girl just started weeping on the floor and said, no, he looks like he's got a smile on his face. And we got out there quick and had to go hear what he had to say. Now, it didn't mean that everything was over that day. We still had challenges. But when you're at peace, I don't know how long it takes anybody else, but I'm stubborn, I guess, hard-headed. But I wasn't mad at God. And I told my little girl, I said, you'll get there, baby. You'll get there. She said, Daddy, I poured my heart out. I'm praying. I said, you'll get there. Don't quit. You'll get there. I know she will. The last thing, love's road to redemption is peace. It is real, even in dark times. So here's verse 22, the last one. So Naomi returned from Moab, accompanied by her daughter-in-law Ruth, the young Moabite woman. They arrived in Bethlehem in late spring at the beginning of the barley harvest. And we'll talk more about that next week. But God operates in two ways in our world. Through miracles and through divine providence. Chapter 1 concludes, and we can observe God moving behind the scenes in the drama. That was in Elimelech and Naomi's life and their son's life and those relationships. And our decisions are so important. You say, well, was it not God's will for him to move? I'll leave that up to you to decide. But even if we make a bad choice, there's a way back. I believe Elimelech's choice was horrible. That's what I believe. I think it's a bad choice. That God takes. Have you ever made that choice? A really bad choice? I have. And God took that bad choice and revealed himself to me and loves the road of redemption. And it just brought me that much closer to him. And even before I come to know Jesus as my personal Savior, it was that down that road where I was making bad choices. As a young married guy making horrible choices. And God just allowed me to suffer the consequences of those horrible choices, Charlie. And then I said, oh, God, I need you. And when I come to see my sin and myself, that I was in charge. And I let that go. I confess my sins. My life changed. And as we walk this road and enjoy the good things of God and the tough things, I don't believe, no matter what happens in my life, I'll ever blame God again. I really wasn't blaming him. I just didn't understand. You know, the beautiful thing, one of the first messages I preached after I got back here, after she had gotten so much better, you know, we don't have to understand. That's the beautiful thing. We don't have to understand. Just accept the love of God wherever we're at, right then and there. For love's road to redemption, God's not finished. What you need to hang on to this week, and I'm going to hang on to too, this is what God gave me. God is never finished. He's always right there. when we're all in heaven. When this life is over, and we're in the presence of Almighty God, that's when He's finished. Even then, we're still going to serve Him. You're going to go with this group, and you're going to go with that group. We're still going to be serving Him. It'll be out of joy, love. Father God, we thank You for this day. It's been an unusual